I've been using Logic Pro 10 and then Logic Pro professionally for about maybe 8 years now, and I'd just like to express a few reasons as to why I'm still here, even though there's a bunch of competition out there these days. Obviously, I've been here for a while, and I think that Logic is a really strong DAW, but I'll let you know how I roll though. No DAW is perfect, and so I'll sort of be spilling the tea on aspects of it that are not so strong. Today's sponsor is DistroKid. They're a music distribution platform. If you want to release your music independently on all major streaming platforms, and also tons of smaller ones as well, I think that they are the way to go. I'll be featuring a fun feature that they offer called Marcel later in this video. So let's get into it in no particular order. Aesthetic. It's apparent to me at least that Logic is the most visually appealing DAW out there. I mean, obviously that's really subjective, but just think about the aesthetic of Apple products in general. They're also visually appealing, simple, user-friendly, and since day one they've brought that consistent aesthetic into Logic Pro. There's some neat and organized icons for different instruments, so drums, piano, guitar, bass, all the things. These cute little icons also show up in the mixer. If you're completely brand new to DAWs, you could use the quick help menu here at the top. So now if you wave your cursor over anything in Logic, it'll explain what it is and how to use it. And if you want even more information, you hit Command / and even more information will pop up right here. I believe that the extent to which this has been developed is a relatively new feature on Logic, and it's just a really useful and clutch way to learn about music production. In terms of ergonomics and just moving windows around, I feel really free in Logic Pro. You could have several instruments or plugins opened at the same time. Enlarge and shrink windows, it's all pretty straightforward, which is really important in a DAW, I think. Mixing plugins. Everything that you need to produce a full track from start to finish is right here in Logic Pro. The plugins sound killer and once again, visually consistent, very soft features. 7 shades of compression to work with, which are all based off of different models. Logic has its own digital model as well. In fact, let's hear it. We're gonna try out a few of these presets. Nice room sound. A really cool thing about this is that you could start by choosing your preset, in which case the parameters are set, and then afterwards you could play with the color of the compression. The presets are never perfect, but they're a great place to start from. Let's take a look at EQ, also very high quality, and I oftentimes start with presets. We're sort of just scratching the surface here. There's a bunch of other mixing and effects plugins as well, something that I could go into more detail in a future video. Let's take a look at instruments. Massive choice of instruments. I'm gonna go over the ones that really stood out to me. Alchemy is a major one. One cool thing about Alchemy is the simple versus advanced setting. So of course you have the option of going with the more surface level presets, which sound good, versus the more advanced options where you could really get into the guts of the instrument. Retro synth is another solid option to go with for that classic analog synth sound. Yeah. Logic has another instrument feature. It's called Studio Horns, and it's a horn section. It's not great. Unless you're going for that uber cheesy 80s like meaty sounding horn section. You could probably get those sounding okay, but you get the point.
I'm just being real with you guys.
Logic also has a string section, which is also lacking a little bit. That being said though, I haven't seen any DAW that offers like a lush, realistic sounding string section. Companies like Spitfire, Cinesamples, and many others have sort of set the standard in that respect. And that's what they specialize in, so the standard is very high at this point. It's not even a comparison, so we're not even gonna go there. Continuing on with instruments, let's venture into drums. Drum kit has some very realistic acoustic sounding drums. Just like all of Logic's other instruments, a vast array of qualities to choose from. I could very easily quantize this, which is actually a feature we're going to get into in just a bit. Ooh. Those all sound like real acoustic kits. Like, that's not bad, especially for stock samples. Drum Machine Designer is the same sort of thing, but more in the electronic music realm. It sort of lends itself to that MPC format. I've programmed a beat in here. Let's drop in a few different kit presets. Ooh, that's my favorite. If you're feeling real lazy, you could actually just choose drummer to play a beat for you. The most amazing feature of drummer is that you could set it to follow specific tracks. For example, I like my bass and drums to be locked, so I'll get it to follow the bass. Let's see how it reacts to that. With this one, it's really about your own taste. I personally find that it follows the bass a little bit too much, like it's too upfront about it. It's kind of hit or miss, but yeah, it's an option. We will venture into editing features. There's a feature called Flex Time. If you activate it, Logic basically locks onto the transients of whatever track you're on. You have the option of moving these transients around if you want. This beat already happens to be quantized, but there's an option to quantize as well up here to whole notes, half notes, quarter notes, eighth notes, 16th notes, so on. Quantize also works very well over MIDI. In fact, the last bass track that I just performed right here, this here has been quantized, so I'll show you the before. Right, so my timing's a little bit off, so I just go quantize to 16th notes, and now it's snapped to the grid. Pitch correction is solid as well, if you use it correctly. So I'm going to attempt to sing something, and then we will tune it up. That's not too bad, right? So I'm going to attempt to auto-tune that. There's a few ways you could do that. We'll take the lower vocal, so this one here. If I want, I have the option to just use the pitch control, but it sometimes does sound a little bit too auto-tuney. Let's check it out. If that sounds a little bit too auto-tune, you could always hit up flex pitch. So just like that, we have a Melodyne style pitch correction where we could really get into the guts of each note, getting very specific and tuning them node by node. There we go, that harmony section is all tuned up, ready to go. I also wanted to mention key commands, which also falls into the editing category. Logic key commands are extremely simple. The basic ones are just so user-friendly and straightforward. Press R to record, hit A for automation. If you click on a track, you hit M to mute it. If you have like a specific chop within a stem, you hit Control M to mute that little part. And of course, you can make up your own hotkey commands, so anything that suits your workflow. Fundamental and super easy to work with. You could tell that Logic creators just wanted to keep it as simple as possible. Another reason why it's so user-friendly. We've reached number 5, which I think is like the breaking point for a lot of people. But before we get into that, let's talk about that special DistroKid feature. Have you ever seen this cheeky video?
What's up? Okay, if you press that button, you are in very, very big trouble.
You've never heard the beat that's featured in that video because it hasn't been released yet. This meme type video is essentially promotion for your releases, and it's easily accessible as a DistroKid user. They have all sorts of useful tools that sort of take the load off the promotion side of things. I mean, we all know how many caps we have to wear as independent artists, right? DistroKid is my go-to because they deliver 100% of royalties to you at no extra cost. It's $20 a year to release unlimited music to all major streaming platforms and smaller platforms as well. So it's just so affordable. If you're interested, make sure to check the link in the description for a 7% discount on your first year. And as I was saying, the fifth reason to go with Logic Pro, the price. Logic is a single payment of $200, which is just bonkers considering the amount of perks that you get with this DAW. Also, and this is sort of just my take on it, Logic is owned by one of the biggest companies in the world, Apple. They basically have an unlimited supply of money behind them, and so you don't feel like they're gouging you. When they update, which is about 3 times a year, there's no extra charge for that. And that, my friends, is my take on Logic Pro. I hope that this video helped inform your decision, maybe if you're like on the fence about which DAW to buy. Thanks so much for watching this video. You know the deal. Hit the old sub button if you're into this sort of content. There's much more where this came from. Maybe even hit the notification bell if you really like this content and want to hear more from me. And I'll see you guys soon. Ciao.